morning, everybody. Welcome into the final episode of 2024 of the Tipping Point with Mike Tipton. We are live on X, on YouTube, on Facebook, and of course on Roku via the National Streaming Sports app. Shout out to our friends over at National Streaming Sports for allowing us to be on this platform over the last couple of months. It's going to be awesome to see what we do moving forward in the new year. Hard to believe 2024 has mercifully come to an end. I'm saying that jokingly, but not really jokingly, especially in my sporting life, right? Watching the Spurs struggle all season long, watching the Dallas Cowboys struggle all season long. The only bright side to me was the Yankees and the Golden Knights, and then the Yankees losing the World Series. So, tough sporting year for your boy. Obviously, that's not the thing that matters the most. But you know what? Hopefully 2025 treats everyone else better than 2024 did. And if you had an amazing 2024, good for you. I'm proud of you. Lucky. Keep it going the way that it should be going. Remember, we are brought to you by our friends over at RevAutoCarCare.com. Use promo code Tipton33. That's Tipton33 to save up to 15% on all of your car care needs. The Denver Broncos fan base is mad at me. We'll get to that in just a little bit, but we start off today with the Detroit Lions and the San Francisco 49ers. This was a fun game. Loved every moment of it, especially drinking the tears of San Francisco 49ers fans who are going to say, our team was injured. That's the reason why we lost this year. This late in the season, every damn team is injured, right? You should be used to Christian McCaffrey being injured. You should be used to Christian McCaffrey not being someone that you can rely on. Your defense had most of the people it needed. Your offense had most of the people it needed outside of Brandon Ayuk and Christian McCaffrey. The Detroit Lions missing Aiden Hutchinson for the entirety of the season. Go into San Francisco, beat the 49ers 40-34. It was a fun game for me to watch. A lot of missed field goals in this game, though. Like that's one of the weird things. I don't know what was going on there. Like the field seemed slippery. It didn't seem like it was raining or anything like that. I didn't get to see much of what happened before the first quarter. I don't know if it was bad weather or what was going on there, but it just seemed that no one could get kicks going on. Luckily, neither team had to punt, so at least we didn't get to see the possible, I guess, downside of what could have been if either team had punted. Nonetheless, the Detroit Lions beating the San Francisco 49ers 40-34 means that this upcoming week on Sunday Night Football, we will have a matchup between the 14-2 Minnesota Vikings and the 14-2 Detroit Lions, which means one of those teams is going to have to face an opponent in the first round of the playoffs on the road. No matter what happens here, they're going to have to face an opponent on the road. So if the playoffs started today, Kansas City and Detroit would have the bye weeks. Well earned by both teams if they were able to get there. Obviously, Detroit has to win or tie against the Vikings in order to clinch that one seed on Sunday night. But if the playoffs started today, you would have the Denver Broncos going into Buffalo. That would be an interesting game, right? Like most of the time, Buffalo has the home field advantage because of weather, cold weather, possible snow. It snows in Denver. It gets really cold in Denver. I feel like that would be a team that can go on the road and maybe give Buffalo a run for their money, other than the fact that Buffalo is, by far at least, in my opinion, my humble opinion, the best team out of those two. Then you would get what I think is going to be the more intriguing matchup between the Packers going on the road to Philadelphia to face off against the Eagles. I was asked yesterday by Linda McGrath, who is a part of the National Streaming Sports Network, who my dark horse team was. And I had to sit back and think about that because I firmly believe if you're in the playoffs, there's no such thing as a dark horse, right? Obviously, you were good enough to win your division or to win one of the 2 wild card spots and get to the playoffs. So I don't necessarily believe in a dark horse team. But if I had to choose a team that I don't think is seated where it should be, that could possibly win the whole thing out of the NFC, I'm going to go with the Green Bay Packers. This team is balanced, right? I've mentioned over the course of the show, over the 2 months of this show, how much I was wrong about Josh Jacobs, about Green Bay letting Aaron Jones go. Aaron Jones from El Paso. Obviously, my ties are going to be there, right? But Josh Jacobs has come in and done exactly what you would want from the Green Bay Packers. Tommy Canazzo saying his dark horse is the LA Rams. We'll talk about the Rams coming up in a little bit because that's a team that I also feel like can make some noise. One game. That's all we get, a one-game sample. And I've said this a bunch of times before in the past with these one-game samples, right? If you play that Super Bowl with the 18-1, the undefeated Patriots going into the Super Bowl against that wild card Giants team, if you play it 9 more times, the Patriots are winning that game 9 times. They win that game 9 out of 10. They win that game more than likely 99 out of 100. It was the sun shining on that dog's ass known as the New York Giants that day that allowed the Giants to walk out of the Super Bowl victorious. That one-game sample is what makes football so great, right? You don't have to worry about multiple back and forth where ultimately the better team will prevail because over a 4 to 5 game series or whatever it is you got to call it, the better team ultimately rises to the top, right? That one-game sample that we get, is where anything can happen. Football can football. The odd-shaped ball can bounce in either direction, determining who the winner is going to be, right? That's what I feel like could happen with not just the Rams, but with the Green Bay Packers. Augustine saying, damn the Giants. Oh, man, that's pulling up a sore spot for you. 0-2 versus Eli Manning. Woof. But that's how I feel like the Packers can do, right? And not only are the Packers a dangerous team with the fact that they can run the ball, they have a pretty solid defense. Jordan Love seems to be that guy. They've got young talent throughout the entire team on the wide receiving core, in the backfield, along the offensive line. The Green Bay Packers, to me, we cannot write them off as a team that can go into Philadelphia and just lose. What have we seen from Philadelphia in the recent times that would make us believe that this team is going to be able to handle the Green Bay Packers? Yes, they beat the dog stuffing out of the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys are, for all intents and purposes, a terrible team. The 2024 version of the Dallas Cowboys, Spider-Man meme of the 1989 version of the Dallas Cowboys that went 1-15, as far as I'm concerned. You either make it to the dance or you don't. There is no in between. Augustine saying the Packers are not going to win. Love has had a good year, but he doesn't have it. Whatever it is. And then he goes on to say, you just want the Eagles to lose, LOL. I will tell you the type of person that I am, right? My friend Pat Costello, he's a producer for Unsportsmanlike over at ESPN. We do Bob, Jim, and Pat Get Drunk on the internet together. He is a diehard Philadelphia Eagles fan from the city of Philadelphia. And as they were beating the life out of the Dallas Cowboys, I sat back and I thought to myself, I hope the next time the Philadelphia Eagles lose is in overtime of the Super Bowl. Because I want that fan base and that team, everything associated with the Philadelphia Eagles, to feel as much pain as possible. just the same way the San Francisco 49ers lost in the Super Bowl last year, that death by 1,000 cuts that you had to watch Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs slowly, methodically move the ball against your team, and they had no chance of stopping it. That's what I want the Philadelphia Eagles to experience. I want the Philadelphia Eagles to just feel so much pain that their fans die sad. Jesus Christ, man. I'm opening up a lot of trauma here with myself over these last couple of games. Augustine saying, now I want to know why you hate the Philadelphia Eagles so much. I mean, rivalry, right? I guess it's you get the issues of just fan bases talking crap to fan bases, right? The Dallas Cowboys, victims of their early success, and you can't even really call it early success, but everyone wants to highlight, okay, it's been going on now 30 years that the Dallas Cowboys haven't won a Super Bowl. But let's sit here and genuflect to the Philadelphia Eagles as though that team right there has been the standard of success for all of the other teams in the NFC, where it took them 52 years to win their first Super Bowl. 52 years to have 20% of the success that the Dallas Cowboys have had. Yet we look at that team as the standard bearer of this is what the NFC East is. I didn't talk about it on the show a couple of weeks ago because after the Dallas Cowboys got eliminated, I sat back and I thought to myself, okay, let's do some quick math here. And I've got it on my phone in my notes, so I am going to bring that up. Here we go. Right? You can see here on the phone. No, it's not hating on the fan base. It's hating on the pundits and all that stuff, right? I just don't. Also, I have an issue with the color green. It hurts my eyes. And just like the uniforms are nasty. That stupid Kelly green uniform they were wearing the other day, throwing batteries at Santa Claus. Just the entire franchise itself to me has been a joke, a laughing stock for almost 100 years. They get one victory and all of a sudden they become the standard of what the NFC East is. It took them longer to win their first championship than all the other three teams in the NFC East did. The Giants, if you want to talk about who should be the standard bearer of the division, it should be the Giants. Winning a Super Bowl in the 80s, winning a Super Bowl in the 90s, winning a Super Bowl in the 2000s, and winning a Super Bowl in the 2010s, right? That right there shows you sustained success over a 4-decade period that the Philadelphia Eagles haven't had. Sure, the Dallas Cowboys have won more Super Bowls total, but when you look at that, if you could say that my team has won a Super Bowl every decade, it gives you faith for the next decade. And if they don't win it that decade, you could say, you know what? That right there is the outlier, right? That's what it comes down to for me. If you're going to talk about what team should be the team that shows off the most success about all of the teams and what they do to win, it should be the Giants. And it just so happens they beat the Patriots twice in those Super Bowls that we're talking about over those decades. But I went back and I said, okay, I want to see who has represented the division, the NFC East, the most in the playoffs. And we had this discussion a couple of days ago, Augustine, or a couple of weeks ago, where the Dallas Cowboys somehow, some way, after being just mediocre for the last 30 years, are still, percentage-wise, the most winning franchise in NFL history. Dallas Cowboys have made the playoffs 36 times in their franchise's history. 36 times in their franchise's history, going back to 1960. Since 1960, the next best team is the New York Giants 33 times. The Washington Commanders have made it 19 times, and the Philadelphia Eagles have made it 27 times. The Giants, once again, the only team here that can hold a flame up to the Cowboys' success. Winning the division, overall wins, Super Bowl wins, etc. The things that actually matter. Just because you're the Philadelphia Eagles and you have a great PR person and you have a rabid fan base that, again, is much like the Dallas Cowboys, and this is our year, but somehow doesn't get the vitriol the way that other teams get the vitriol is insane to me. Looking over here at the comment section, Tommy Canazza saying, sorry, Tip, I don't want them in the Super Bowl. I want to see them lose to a 7th seed. That, too, would also be fun. Just limping into the playoffs, get beat by Green Bay, which, again, there's a real possibility here. We can't look at Green Bay and be like, that's not a team that can beat the Eagles. They're 11-5 right now. They're more than likely going to end the season 12-5. Why wouldn't you have faith in the Green Bay Packers? Tommy Canazza also going on to say, I hate the damn fan base. Our guy, Jaime Pinky, coming in saying, why is Augustine always negative? I want all teams to have never won a Super Bowl, stay at 0, and Philly stay at uno. And then Jaime Pinky saying, I bet the color of money, that green, does not hurt your eyes. And when you pay attention to my teams, thank you, I win. Augustine saying the Cowboys will not win anything unless ownership changes. Plain and simple. Again, super easy take there. Your teams, ha ha ha. I hate the Dallas Cowboys fan base. I mean, we're good with it. We are good with it. I mean, we know that you hate the Dallas Cowboys fan base and that you are a negative Nancy. But after I did all that research, and I sat back and I thought to myself, okay, let me find out about the history, because that's always what I rely on, right? Anything in my life is, if you've done XYZ for N amount of years, the math is going to say, and the history is going to say, that you are going to revert back to whatever N is, right? The fact of the matter is that the Dallas Cowboys have been the more successful franchise in the NFC East, by far. And whatever measurements you have of what success is, the 30 years since they've won their last Super Bowl, which is, again, a painful thing for me to say, but the 30 years since they won their last Super Bowl, they have become the most valuable franchise in all of sports, with other franchises having 100-year starts over the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys have done winning where it truly matters. They lead SportsCenter every damn Monday or Tuesday, depending on what day they play. The next day, they're the topic du jour. People have created entire legacies as media members simply because their stance is 31 other teams will win, just not the Dallas Cowboys. The easiest stance that you can take by far. You talk about the easy road, that right there, the easy road. Everyone else but one team will win. Math says you're right. Anybody with a brain that can comprehend simple, basic first grade math would understand 31 versus 1, we take 31, right? Again, sometimes the sun shines on a dog's ass every now and again. The Dallas Cowboys might be that dog's ass. But over that 60 years that they've been a franchise, 65 years that they've been a franchise, they have been extremely successful. There's more than likely a possibility of them going back and winning something, right? The outliers of the Red Sox, the Cubs, the White Sox having these, lengthy times between championships, that's because you had a small number of teams. And again, like, I'll say it as a Yankees fan, right? Like, I don't count the championships I didn't get to see. Back then you had 12 teams maybe, so it was just a round robin of that. One team had all of them. That's why the Yankees won 22 championships before I was even born. Augustine saying winning what, when, and how. They're winning. You talk about them more than their fan base talks about them. How are you going to talk about how you hate their fans when you are a fan? But like, again, you are a fan. You're sitting here talking about the Dallas Cowboys more than you talk about your New England Patriots, even whenever your New England Patriots were winning Super Bowls. I know that. I've been in the media for a decade now. And I know that you, my friend, have been talking about the Dallas Cowboys more than the New England Patriots, more than their fan base has. Tommy Canazzo saying, how about they tell us who will win the Super Bowl? Exactly, right? And that was part of the reason why I decided I was going to do the show the way that I do the show, is if I'm wrong, what harm does that have, right? Like we all have I don't want to say we all make mistakes, because I don't think being wrong about a sports opinion is a mistake, but we all have opinions, and sometimes those opinions are wrong, right? So my whole thing was, if I'm wrong, I will tell you all I'm wrong. I was wrong. I think I said it more on this show this year than I have any other time, because I have been wrong. Jaime Pinky saying baseball and you won the league and went straight to the World Series, no playoffs. Yeah, that was the long time ago, right? I think the playoff system that baseball has was introduced in the 1970s. And then now they introduced the wild card stuff. I remember I was a kid when they introduced the wild card stuff in baseball. So the path was so much easier for teams to win, but so much harder for teams that didn't have the talent, right? You had to make sure you won your league. So you had to win the American League or the National League. And if you weren't the Yankees or any of the other stuff going on right there, that was going to be some of the issues, right? That's how those prolonged playoff droughts and World Series championship droughts can happen. My guy Will Heron saying, Tippy. I also got 13 seconds saying his normal thing of, do not piss me off. I always like making new fans. It's fun. Augustine going on to say, at Jaime Pinkman, thanks for caring so much about what I say. It's all about the discourse, back and forth, Augustine. You know that. Once again, it is the Tipping Point with Mike Tipton. We are live on YouTube, X, on Facebook, and of course on Roku via the National Streaming Sports app. Shout out to National Streaming Sports. Check out all the programming they have. Amazing, amazing programming. As a matter of fact, one of the cool things that they put up yesterday was like a history about stuff that happened in the world of boxing. Apparently, Sonny Liston died 50 years ago yesterday. Didn't even know that. And they just break out what happened in that day in boxing history. It was super cool. I'm a nerd when it comes to the history stuff, so I'm happy with all of that stuff right there. Jaime Pinkman saying, I am old enough to remember when I went to school and we would see the World Series in class, all games during the day. That is awesome. I will say that. That is awesome. Me, whenever I was teaching, what I always did was make sure I had some connection to my projector screen. You can see I have the white screen over here behind me. I put the projector on this screen whenever I'm in here lonely as all hell, and I'll watch like sports stuff. But as a teacher, I would put on the NCAA tournament, Major League Baseball playoffs. This year I put on the Olympics. I did all of those things. And my reasoning behind that is I'm an audio video teacher. I'm teaching these students about camera angles because we have to work the football games at the stadium and work the cameras and do all of that stuff right there. My guy Will Heron saying, bro, I went from 350 subs to 4,800 subs in 8 months covering Nick Rakita and Aaron Imholt drama. You need to take a peek at it. I got you, my dude. I'm trying to get more into YouTube. I've just been like, hey, let's put the show out here on YouTube. I've done that for the last couple of years, but I've never actually looked into like monetizing on YouTube. So I think I'm going to start doing that. Share out the links and all that stuff for YouTube as well. Being wished a happy new year by 13 seconds. Happy new year to you as well. Augustine saying Jaime is old enough to see creation. Augustine, we established that you are somehow the oldest person that is a part of this show. I truly mean that, right? Like, I don't want to call anybody fans of the show. I just want to call y'all like a part of the show. Tommy Canhanto saying, I have company on YouTube. The shocked emoji. I know, dude. I am just as shocked as you are. This is strange to me. Normally the numbers are on Twitter, where I've always had a larger audience on Twitter. And then of course on Facebook, Twitch, other things like that. I just got off of Twitch because it wasn't that great. I want to try to learn more about Discord and different things like that. And then, of course, the podcast. Podcast downloads have always been my thing. Simply the voice. That's all I've got is the voice, right? my one and only redeeming quality. Will Heron saying, I know you're hustling. If you need any help, get at me. I got you, my dude. I got you. I also want to tell you about a couple of other things that might be coming my way here, which are going to be fun as well. Augustine saying, wait, this thing is on YouTube? It is. It is. I say it every single show. We are live on X, on Facebook, on YouTube, and of course, on Roku via the National Streaming Sports app. Every show except Friday shows. Augustine saying there are 20 here on X. Exactly. And I get just looking at the numbers because it shows me all the stuff right here. We've got about a total of 30 people watching on Facebook, so that's pretty fun to see as well. Augustine saying he thought I was joking. What things do I joke about other than trying to make fan bases mad? Tommy Canazza saying, you all should have told me you're coming. I would have cleaned up a little bit. Tommy would have had to dust off all the cobwebs from the loneliness that he's had over there. I was talking about it yesterday, like how if it was up to me, I would wind up becoming like a hermit and a recluse, right? I feel like that's how Tommy has to feel as well, being for a long time the only person, I want to say since November, really, the only person that watches on YouTube. I've had a couple of outliers here on YouTube where like I'll go live every now and then if I'm at the NFL draft or if I'm covering a sporting event, and like I'll go live on the field or whatever, and I'll have a couple hundred views there. But I don't consider that like sustained stuff, right? It's whatever we do on X, whatever we do on Facebook. That's normally the sustained route here. And then of course, whatever numbers we're pulling in on Roku via National Streaming Sports. So it's really awesome. I know most of the people that are watching this don't care about those types of things. That's where I care about stuff, is how can we get growth? I love seeing the sustained and consistent growth with the show. Going back over to the comment section over here. By the way, Tippy and Tommy, I know. I'm wondering what I'm trying to figure out what that one might be about. Okay. We're going to take a quick break. Whenever we come back here on the Tipping Point with Mike Tipton, we are going to talk about the MVP race. We already went over the first two. If the playoffs started today, the 2 seed, 2 versus 7 matchup, we will continue with that, the 3 versus 6, 4 versus 5, and then I'll give an opinion about what I feel on that. We'll talk about the MVP matchup, and then if there's enough time, we'll talk about the college football playoff kicking off tonight, the semifinal kicking off tonight, and of course, later on today, I will be live at the Sun Bowl with the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl Association, the 91st annual Sun Bowl, Louisville taking on the University of Washington Huskies. We will be back in just a second, though, after this quick message from our friends over at Happy Nuts. Oh, hello. I'm Mike Tipton. I want to tell you about the perfect gift this holiday season. The Ballber's dual-sided ergonomic design allows it to go both ways, meaning you can shave in either direction. The slim shape is optimal for trimming those hard-to-reach areas. It's also nut-safe, providing a 30-degree pivoting blade that is engineered for nut keeping. Say goodbye to the cuts, nicks, pulling, tugging, and snaps. If you're looking for stamina, it's got exactly what you need. With its long-lasting lithium rechargeable battery, it can last up to 150 minutes on one charge. The Ballber is IPX7 waterproof, which means it can have fun, dry, or wet.
Visit www.myhappynuts.com/Mike Tipton to give your man the perfect package for his package.
Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. It's an absolute pleasure to serve as your president. I know that our community is going to come out in full force. And on the ACC side, we have Louisville.
They're playing and representing the Pac-12, even though they're in the Big Ten. To make it short, University of Washington.
Welcome back into the Tipping Point with Mike Tipton. We are live on YouTube, on X, on Facebook, and of course on Roku via National Streaming Sports. Will Heron saying, I'm telling you, get with the Baldo people. I will write that down. I just wrote it down. See, even got the little Sharpie in my hand. Wrote down, I will get with the Baldo people. We will talk to them and see what stuff they've got going on. I finally learned about what it was that Augustine and Tommy were talking about. Tommy now, just yesterday, Tommy was the oldest person that's been associated with the show. That's a part of the show. You guys get the show. Tommy, somehow, some way yesterday, I put out a poll. What is your New Year's Eve tradition? And Tommy decided that he was going to let me in on the fact that he will be in what I can only imagine is a nightgown with a nightcap and a candle, getting ready to go to bed, looking like Ebenezer Scrooge at 11 o'clock in the morning. My guy, former sergeant in the United States Air Force, Michael Taylor, coming in saying, my boy TNT, got nothing but love for you, my dude. Love seeing the stuff that you're doing as well. Side note, I guess, are you going to be going to the reunion, the Seymour Johnson reunion that I just found out about in February? As that came out of my mouth, I realized saying the Seymour Johnson reunion might not be the best way to say that. Maybe I should have said the POL reunion, but then it's a poll reunion, and maybe I'm just in my own head about some of these things. Are you going to be going to the reunion at the Air Force Base that we were both stationed at in February? Because I'm debating on whether or not I want to go to this thing, and it all depends on timing and other events and stuff of that nature, of course. Tommy Canazzo laughing at me. I'm telling you, man, just the way that my brain processes stuff, it's, should you have said Seymour Johnson without the Air Force Base attached to it? Whenever I got the orders that I was going to Seymour Johnson Air Force Base, I thought to myself, you are joking. It sounded like a Simpsons prank. Seymour Johnson Air Force Base. Augustine saying Seymour Johnson? Whoa. That's where you have to sell more ball cleaners. It's not ball cleaners, as a matter of fact. It is the bulber from our friends over at happynuts.com. happynuts.com/Mike Tipton. Guys, you got to take care of yourself in your nether region. You don't want swamp ass. You don't want the chafe. You don't want your boys sticking to each other where you got to do the weird side step out. We all know what the side step out is. You don't want to continue doing that. What you got to do is go get the comfort cream from our friends over at myhappynuts.com/Mike Tipton. Save up to 40% on some of the packages that they have over at myhappynuts.com. My guy, there we go. That's a better nickname, right? Shady J. I should have just said Shady J. I even thought about that in my mind, but instead I had to go with Seymour Johnson Air Force Base. Tommy Kananta saying Roku has to be loving this at this moment. And then, of course, you want to see more Johnson? Use the bulber. Exactly. If you got too much of a bush, it gives you 3 to 4 inches optically. And as we say that, Linda McGrath from Roku saying, do you play Saquon Barkley or not? It depends on Saquon Barkley. It depends on the value that Saquon Barkley puts into breaking Eric Dickerson's record, right? And for a lot of people, it's going to be Roger Maris beating Babe Ruth's record at that point in time. You have extra games to do it. Does it really count? If he was able to do it in 16 games, like he got 2,000 yards in 16 games, maybe more people will put stock in it. But, I mean, ultimately it comes down to Saquon Barkley. Does he want to play, and does he want to try to break that record? Does it mean something to him breaking it in 17 games rather than 16 games? And I am going to say, if I'm Philadelphia, I am erring against it. I'm saying no. I don't want him to play at all. But if it's something that matters to Saquon Barkley and he really wants to try to break this record, you let him go out there and see what he can do. He's 100 or so yards away. He can get 100 yards in a heartbeat, right? He's Saquon Barkley. He's really damn good at what it is that he does. Augustine getting the joke, saying some of the packages. Exactly. Michael Taylor going on to say a great way to go from Seymour Johnson to the other stuff that we were talking about. And then Michael Taylor saying, break the record, baby. And that's what it comes down to, right? Like, does Saquon Barkley put stock in breaking the all-time rushing record or all-time single-season rushing record? And then how is he going to, like, how would it be perceived? Because, again, Roger Maris was hated for breaking Babe Ruth's record because he got more games. And people were like, there needs to be an asterisk that blah, 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 right? Obviously, Eric Dickerson not looked at the same way as Babe Ruth was, so maybe people won't hate it as much, but it's going to be something that people are going to talk about. There should be an asterisk. There shouldn't be an asterisk, blah, 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 blah. For me, it all comes down to Saquon Barkley. If he wants to try to pad the stats, because right now the way that it's looking is he's third favorite to win the MVP. Is breaking the all-time rushing record going to be the thing that gets him the MVP? More than likely not, just because we don't have a value on running backs the way that we used to, right? It's all about how can you get into the playoffs healthy. God forbid if you're an Eagles fan, if you're me and you're Tommy Cananza, go out there, play, have a minor injury that you can come back from, but miss the next playoff game. Like that's what Tommy and I are going for, that type of chaos, right? And I will be more than glad to talk about that. Augustine saying, is breaking records in today's NFL valid, though? I mean, breaking a record by 10 yards in 17 games, it is, right? Because he's not in control of the season expanding one more game. Like, he's really not. And if you're going to hold that against the player, then you got to hold it against Mark McGuire. You got to hold it against Barry Bonds, other than doing the perception of doing roids and all the other things like that they have to go on with, right? Like, a record matters. And at the end of the day, if you can retire and say, I was the single season all-time rushing leader, no one's going to look back in 40 years from now and be like, oh, but that's after the season was extended out to 17 games. Eric Dickerson was the beneficiary of the season being extended from 14 to 16 games, right? So it's all about context and how you look at it with context. Once we get 40 years of 17 straight seasons, we're not going to just, Augustine saying minor or major, just saying any injury is an injury. I'm with you on that one, man. As long as it happens, that's what I think matters for dejected Dallas Cowboys fans such as ourselves going out there and watching the Philadelphia Eagles have just a small smidgen of success that they've been able to have. But I look at where Saquon Barkley is at right now, right? And if we make this back 20 years, he's number one when it comes to the playoff, or number one when it comes to the MVP race. Hands down, flatly. Number one when it comes to the MVP race. But I'm looking at the MVP race right now, and Josh Allen is the overwhelming favorite at negative 9,000, right? Minus 9,000. If you're betting, that means you bet $9,000, you win one. Or 100, rather. You bet $9,000, you win $100, right? Not a good bet to go on Josh Allen at this moment. Maybe the futures bets were pretty good out there, but right now, that's not where you want to be. Josh Allen, though, has 3,400 yards, just under 3,400 yards, 25 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, just under 500 rushing yards, and 11 rushing touchdowns. Then the number 2 candidate for the MVP is the already 2-time MVP and Lamar Jackson, who has thrown for just under 3,600 yards, 35 touchdowns. So he has 10 more touchdowns in the air than Josh Allen does, 3 interceptions, so 2 less interceptions than Josh Allen does, 750 rushing yards is just under that, so 250 more rushing yards than Josh Allen, but three rushing touchdowns, 8 less. Stack them up all together right now. Lamar Jackson, more yards, more touchdowns than Josh Allen has right now. And I said, okay, well, I know those are the top 2. Obviously, Saquon's going to be in there as well. I was surprised to see Saquon at 3. It means he's got a legitimate chance. And then I saw the next 2 out of the top 5 people in the running for the MVP. And we've got Jared Goff, the quarterback of the Detroit Lions, who is having a phenomenal season right now. I think yesterday was his, 7th game of the season where he completed over 75% of his passes and threw for multiple touchdowns. I think 3 or more touchdowns was the rate that they had it at. The only quarterback that's done that more was Tom Brady in the 2007 season, where the team goes 18-1, making it to the Super Bowl, the undefeated regular season team where Tom Brady was the MVP. That's the only other quarterback that has performed statistically better than Jared Goff throughout a full season. And then, of course, there's Patrick Mahomes at number 5. And I sat here and I thought to myself, would anybody be upset if we announced the quarterback of the best team in the NFL as the MVP? Would anybody really be upset saying, okay, if you took Patrick Mahomes off of the Kansas City Chiefs, that team would not be a playoff contending team. But if you put Patrick Mahomes into any other team, if you put Patrick Mahomes on the Jets are a Super Bowl contender. Look at the talent they have around them. They have a better offensive line than the Chiefs. They might not have the running game the Chiefs have, but they have better receivers than the Chiefs. The defense might not be as good as the Chiefs, but whenever you have Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback and you can protect him, they would be a legitimate Super Bowl contender. Take Patrick Mahomes and place him on any team. That team is automatically a Super Bowl contender. So is it that we're already at this point in his career tired of the success that Patrick Mahomes has had? Because you could say flatly, during their careers, Tom Brady probably should have been the MVP almost every season. Same thing with Michael Jordan, right? Should have been the MVP almost every damn season. Instead, we go through winner's fatigue. Augustine saying all these stats for quarterbacks are great, but it makes you see how great Dan Marino was. Exactly. Dan Marino well ahead of his time. Augustine saying not any team. I know that's going to go to Dallas Cowboys is what you're going to say. They would still be terrible no matter what happens, right? Michael Taylor saying, who cares about the number of games that are being played? He has had a phenomenal season. Ovechkin might break Gretzky's all-time goals record, and that's another one, right? Like, Ovechkin breaking Gretzky's all-time goal record would be a great thing to see. It sucks that hockey doesn't get the coverage, and you know what? I'm guilty of it as well. This is where I will have my contrition. I'm guilty of it as well, where I don't pay attention to as much hockey as I'd like to. I love to watch it. I love watching my Vegas Golden Knights. I love going down to the rink where the El Paso Rhinos were Kraft USA, Hockey Town USA representatives for 2 years because we love hockey in the city of El Paso. I love going and watching the El Paso Rhinos do their thing. I got to start covering more in hockey. You know what, Michael? For you, my dude, for TNT, I'm going to be making sure we cover some hockey. Jaime Pinkman saying, exactly, Augustine, why is 1,000 yards in rushing receiving the apogee? 17 games, 58 yards per game on average. I don't know. I think we got some numbers wrong here. It's about 2,000. And Tommy Canonsa saying, they don't have the coaching staff, though. Don't sell short Andy Reid. I will never sell short Andy Reid. And that's what I was going to go down to, right? Is, yes, it comes down to coaching. But Robert Saleh was a pretty damn good coach. He just ran into what Aaron Rodgers is, which is a dumpster fire, right? Like, there could have been the possibility for the Jets if you got someone like a Patrick Mahomes. But he's going to be a victim of his own success. He's going to be a victim of, we've seen this guy win. Yes, he can more than likely win every damn MVP every year because he's that good. He's proven to us in a short amount of time that he is a Hall of Fame quarterback. If Patrick Mahomes retired this season without winning a Super Bowl, he's a 3-time Super Bowl winner, has the single-season record for the most touchdown passes thrown. He would be a Hall of Fame player in an 8-year career, which is just mind-blowing to think about. There was a player, there's a player for the University of Miami that has played college football longer than Patrick Mahomes has been in the NFL. Cam McCormick, a 9-year college football career. That's longer than Gale Sayers. That's longer than Terrell Davis. That's longer than a lot of people that are in the Hall of Fame right now. Cam McCormick has played an NFL's career worth in college football, longer than that of the career of Patrick Mahomes. I love those just crazy stats from college football. But Patrick Mahomes is going to be, without a shadow of a doubt, like I said, if Patrick Mahomes won the MVP this year, would anybody out there be mad? Those of you watching on YouTube, those of you watching on X, Facebook, wherever it is, would you be mad if Patrick Mahomes won the MVP? The team is 15-1. What would they be without him? Right? We've seen this team. Jaime is giving me math here. 1,000 divided by 17 is 58. I get it. He has 2,000 yards. Double it, my guy. If you're going to double it based off of just that right there, it's basically 117 yards, maybe a little more. 117.4 or something like that, right? Like, that's what it's going to be. That's just quick math off the top of my head. Averaging 117 yards a game? Come on. Come on. Tommy Canonsa saying, nope, he should win. So you're saying that Patrick Mahomes should win the MVP. Because I'm with you on this. I look at the other teams, right? And again, like, wins and losses to me, not a quarterback stat. I always hate, I don't know who it was that I was listening to yesterday where they were like, it was a sports show. They were talking about Sam Darnold. They're like, he has more career wins with the Minnesota Vikings in the one season he's with the Minnesota Vikings than he had in the 3 seasons that he was with the New York Jets. And I had to sit back and say, but quarterbacks don't get career wins. They're not pitchers, right? There's 2 other facets of the game, offense, defense, that you got to worry about in order to get your team to win. Wins and losses are not a quarterback stat. Yes, the quarterback gets the adulation and the quarterback gets the blame for however the team does. But wins and losses are not a quarterback stat. But the quarterback impacts the game, right? Like obviously it's the most important position in all of sports. What are the Kansas City Chiefs without Patrick Mahomes? And to me, we've always been told the best player on the best team is who wins the MVP. Well, Patrick Mahomes is the best player, and the Kansas City Chiefs are the best team. Again, to be the man, woo, you got to beat the man. And no one has been able to really dethrone the Kansas City Chiefs. We have sat here all season long talking about how the Kansas City Chiefs, there's something wrong with the Kansas City Chiefs. This can't be a team that's going to win. What happens when this team gets to the playoffs? All they did this year, was go 15-1, losing to the number 2 seed. Michael Taylor saying, I hate that you are right. I got it as well. Jaime Pinkman saying, gotta go. Happy New Year's to all. Thanks, Mike. Go Miners, Cowboys, San Francisco Giants, Golden State Warriors, and so on and so forth. I appreciate the love, Jaime. We'll be talking a little bit later on. I'm doing a documentary on former El Paso Diablos owner Jim Paul. So if you have any memories with the El Paso Diablos, get at me, slide into the DMs. We're going to be creating this documentary, and hopefully by the summertime, we'll have something that comes out in just a little bit. And then going on to say the Socorro High School Bulldogs, that's my guy. Got nothing but love for my Socorro High School Bulldogs. Class of 1967, I want to say, 769, 71, one of those, whatever it is. You're an OG down in Socorro, my dude, and I got nothing but love for you, my guy. So hopefully you have a great New Year for Jaime Pinkman. Looking up over at the comment section, Augustine saying Ovechkin is a beast. He is a Mario Lemieux, Steve Yzerman, Bobby Orr clone. He's all of them, right? Like Ovechkin. I get that Sidney Crosby and old boy up in Edmonton, I can't think of his name off the top of my head right now. Connor McDavid. I get that those are going to be like the face of NHL, but we've really got to start giving Alexander Ovechkin his love, man. Like, the dude is going, like, he's great. A certifiable Hall of Famer, right? Like, let's give him his flowers. Let's recognize greatness in the moment. Like, this is what we should be doing with all of those legendary players, right? Like, I'm not a LeBron guy. Let's give LeBron his love. Let's give Patrick Mahomes their love in the moment that we can, because once it's done, we'll sit back and realize, damn, we will never see another Alexander Ovechkin again. We will never see another LeBron James again. We will more than likely never see another Patrick Mahomes, but we said that about not seeing another Tom Brady, and then poof, here comes Patrick Mahomes, right? They just have whatever it is. Whatever creates greatness is what they have, and we got to take a step back as sports fans and just recognize greatness in the moment, right? I feel like that was one of those things that, like, you can hate a guy in the middle of his career, but as you get towards the end and you just see record after record after record being broken, that's what happened to me with Kobe Bryant, right? I hated Kobe Bryant. And then comes the fact of me as a Spurs fan where it's like, you know what? You got to give him his love, right? Like he's the Mamba, right? That's how it was for me. Same thing with Tom Brady. At first, I hated Tom Brady. Now he's number one on the man crush list just because he's Tom effing Brady, right? Like, we've got to be able to sit back and compartmentalize. Like, sports isn't everything. Let's give these dudes their flowers whenever they deserve it. Like, people always give me crap for saying that Tony Romo is the best quarterback in Dallas Cowboys history. I genuinely believe that. Like, statistically, all the other stuff there, he is. Augustine saying that you said that so bad. Yzerman, yeah, I know. I messed up the Yzerman name. I apologize. And Mario Lemieux. I love me some Mario Lemieux. C'est parce que je parle en français. No, I'm petite. But man, like, we've really got to do that, guys. Like, let's start giving a little bit of love to these players whenever we watch them in real time. Because it sucks, like, going back and realizing, like, damn, that dude was great, right? Like, we've got to be able to set our biases aside and then realize, you know what? That was a pretty solid-ass player at that point in time, unless they played in the Philadelphia Eagles, in which case you were probably garbage. You were terrible your entire career. You were holding, whatever it is. Unless you're Jason Kelsey, in which case I didn't like you until you retired, and that's only because you went through a table in Buffalo because you're a crazy, drunk, fat guy just like me. Augustine saying that Tony Romo he never had any help. I think that's the thing, right? Is by the time the Cowboys built around Tony Romo, he was broken. He had already broken his back twice for that team. And I just always wonder, like, if they had given him a sustained running game, if they had given him a sustained defense, what that Dallas Cowboys team could have done. But we will never know, right? Like again, I don't live in the what if. We got to live in the what is. Tony Romo, for all the stats that he had for the Dallas Cowboys, will be labeled an underachiever for the Dallas Cowboys. Going on to say, let's give Aaron Rodgers some love, said no one ever. I had this conversation yesterday about Aaron Rodgers, and I am just like, oh. He's a great NFL player. He's not anywhere and should never be in the conversation of the greatest of all time, because nowhere during his career did you sit back and say, I am going to choose Aaron Rodgers over all the other quarterbacks that he's playing with. You didn't choose him over Tom Brady. You didn't choose him over Peyton Manning. You weren't going to choose him over Drew Brees. There's people out there that would argue you wouldn't choose him over Ben Roethlisberger or Phillip Rivers. Right now, you wouldn't have chosen him over Patrick Mahomes or over Lamar Jackson, over Josh Allen, or hell, even Matthew Stafford. There's a time there where Matthew Stafford was a much better quarterback than Tom Brady, despite the or than Aaron Rodgers, despite the fact that their careers are almost parallel. Aaron Rodgers has never been the greatest quarterback of his era. How can you call him the greatest quarterback of all time? Tommy Cananza saying Tony Romo is the Cowboys GOAT. Again, I'm glad I'm not the only one that sees this. I am genuinely glad that I am not the only one that sees the greatness of Tony Romo. All right, everybody, in a little bit, I'm going to be going down to the Sun Bowl to cover the 91st annual Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl game between the University of Louisville Cardinal and the University of Washington Huskies. I hope to see everybody in El Paso out there today. It's going to be a fun time. Perfect sunny weather for the Sun Bowl. We couldn't have asked for anything better. There will not be a live show tomorrow. I will have some pre-recorded interviews that are going to be playing over the New Year's Day holiday. So if you want to check that out, I've got my girl Sunny Choi, who is a B-boxer, and then a B-girl breakdancer from the Olympics. And then, of course, I've got Evelyn Siqueiros. She is representing Apple Music One, and she's going to let us know about some of the stuff that's going on over there. I want to thank you all for what this year has been. It's been absolutely great. I appreciate the love. I appreciate the support. I appreciate seeing the growth that we have had with the show. I cannot wait to see what we do in 2025. Everyone have a happy and safe New Year's. We will see you next year.
Oh, hello. I'm Mike Tipton. I want to tell you about the perfect gift this holiday season. The Ballber's dual-sided ergonomic design allows it to go both ways, meaning you can shave in either direction. The slim shape is optimal for trimming those hard-to-reach areas. It's also nut-safe, providing a 30-degree pivoting blade that is engineered for nut keeping. Say goodbye to the cuts, nicks, pulling, tugging, and snaps. If you're looking for stamina, it's got exactly what you need. With its long-lasting lithium rechargeable battery, it can last up to 150 minutes on one charge. The Ballber is IPX7 waterproof, which means it can have fun, dry, or wet. Visit www.myhappynuts.com/Mike Tipton to give your man the perfect package for his package.